What will help give you strength, our anonymous friend here, is being able to zoom out. You know, when the burden seems heavy, you zoom out, and the problems that seem like mountains begin to look more like molehills. You know, so we need that perspective. Our friends help us, give us that perspective. Sometimes we need a friend there to remind us. We definitely need daily reading and daily contemplation of these truths, and you'll find that that'll become a little lighter. Get out from under this debt. Keep up your practice. Be prepared that for some short amount of time, this life, you know, which is the remainder of your life, there's going to be struggle. We all got to come to terms with that, and hang in there, and just keep the main thing. Keep reading these books. Keep chanting that mantra. Keep associating with devotees, and Krishna will bless you, and it'll start to feel lighter as you go. Even if the same weight is there, you're seeing it in a different way. It'll help.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Come on! Live from beautiful Jaipur. This is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily spiritual podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator of the Bhakti Center in New York, who's currently in Rishikesh now, Kaustubha. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Q&A Day. It's a day that we take questions and answers. It's Sunday, it's Saturday, isn't it?
No, it's Sunday.
Sunday.
Oh, it's Sunday. It's Sunday, March 2nd, 2025. It's our last day in India tomorrow.
Yeah.
Your last day.
Heading home.
It's a travel day, travel couple days for me and Mara. And I'm in Jaipur with Mara. We're just having darshan of the famous Govinda temple. This is a really magnificent city.
Did you go today?
It's a home to a
Govinda?
lot of the Vrindavan deities. We didn't go today. Today was a relax rest day. It was a rest day. But the other days we've been here, we went. We'll probably go this evening. But people check in with this deity all day long. It's just sort of like you check in with your kids. How are the kids doing? People treat Govinda like he's one of their children. Hey, Govinda. Hey, Govinda. Okay. And it's such a family affair. Like hundreds of people just coming for the evening artik. And they're not even just coming. They're running to see the deity. Like, we got to see the deity. It's like you're running after your child. Like, I'm getting home to see my child. It's so exciting, actually. But Kaustubha,
Yeah.
you know this, and only a handful of people know this, but we had a very traumatic situation with Miss Mara the other day, and
It was scary. It was scary.
it was a very scary situation.
Heart-wrenching. It was heart-wrenching.
Yeah, we had walked around Govardhan. We walked, I think, 12 miles in total that day.
We've done about the same the day before too. Yeah.
We did more this day. We did like whatever it was. We did like 28,000 steps or something like that. I don't know, miles. But she ate very little. She just ate like some papaya. She was hydrated as far as we know. And then at the end of the day, we met with Amarananda and Banu Nandini and Siddheshwari, my all-star crew. And we went out to Bhakti-Vedanta Goswami's his Govardhan temple they're building, which is called Rupa Seva Kunj. This thing I'm going to give a whole show on this thing, but this man is a genius. I highly recommend people go back and listen to the interview Kaustubha did with Bhakti-Vedanta Goswami. It is a bunch of geniuses running this property and project they're doing. Okay, but that's not it. Then they served us an incredible feast at this little cafe they have. Like, that's incredible, Kaustubha. Okay. Like, so then me and Mara,
the place looks a lot different than it did in October.
Somehow they upped it to this next level. I'm thinking, all the rooms are ready. They had a retreat there, but that's not what I'm getting to. What I'm getting to is a little bit of a tragedy that happened, and I almost lost my mind. So me and Mara, having such a great meal, we're like, you know what? Let's just walk back to the ashram that we're staying. So we're like, yeah. And we were reflecting on like the transcendental day we had, the joy in our hearts. We feel healthy. We feel strong. We've been well fed. We've had.
Where exactly were you? Where exactly were you at this?
We were sort of passing Bridge Vasundar.
Yeah.
So we were walking. Yeah. So we basically had 3 kilometers to walk back.
Yeah. And it was such a nice evening.
It was a charm.
Weather was perfect.
Weather was perfect. And then Mara just looked at me and she goes, and she started sneezing and she said, I got a little bit of an allergy or something. And I was like, okay. She's like, I feel really weird. I said, okay, you want to sit down? She sat on the side of like this little bench or lamp post or something.
You were probably thinking dehydration at that point, right?
Yeah, I was thinking she's dehydrated.
I was thinking I was gonna have like a stomach thing. Like I was like that. Maybe that food didn't sit wet.
Right.
with
We
me,
just
because
ate.
when all of a sudden your whole body just
Feels
feels like
weird.
it's like rejecting something. Like it was like
Yeah.
that kind of full body where I was like, whatever's about to happen isn't good. So I thought maybe it was like a stomach thing. Like I was gonna start throwing up.
You thought this
So I
might
was
be a
like,
Calcutta Book Fair kind of circumstance.
Yeah, that's what I was. I was a little worried that was gonna be the situation. I decided to go over that hill, no less.
So anyway, I said, well, Mara, let's just not walk back. I'll get you a rickshaw. So I called the rickshaw. She gets in the rickshaw. As soon as we get in the rickshaw, I said, Govardhan Palace. It's called Govardhan Palace. And because that's near where I was staying. So she jumps in the rickshaw with me. It's like a electric rickshaw. And so she just goes, I feel very, very weird. And I was like, oh, okay. How do you feel? I don't know. And she was very short with her words. And we were just riding along,
I don't
chanting.
even recall getting in the rickshaw, actually. I remember sitting on the side while you were calling the rickshaw. That's sort of the last thing I remember.
Yeah. So we were talking and I'm just like, well, how do you feel? Questioning. I'm looking away. I'm looking to the left at Govardhan Hill because we're going down the road. We're going down the Prickram Trail of Govardhan Hill. And I was like, Mara, how you feeling now? I look at Mara. She's got her head tipped back and she's just gazing in the sky. And I was like, Mara. And I realized she's unconscious. And she's, oh my, I tell you, I didn't know what to think. I was like, and I'm like in total panic. And the rickshaw driver stops the car and he goes, it's gone Govardhan Palace. I was like, and I'm like, oh my God. I went right to, this woman is dying at Govardhan Hill. And I was just, and I'm trying to hold her so she doesn't fall out of the rickshaw because it's not like she's got a seatbelt on. At the same time, I think, by the way, she was like sort of like a little bit of drool and a little bit of like gasping. I thought, is she just having aneurysm or something like that? And so, I was pleading with her, Mara, do you hear me? And also
no
I have no response at all. Her head tilted back. Her eyes are gazing into nothingness. I feel like either she's possessed or she's in spiritual bhav right now. Like Krishna's entered her heart and she's about to leave in the spiritual world, like at Govardhan Hill. It's the perfection of life. It's the big home run for the Hare Krishnas. So I got a bag that's that's falling out at my feet. I got Mara I'm holding on to. I've got my phone in my hand trying to call somebody for help. And at the same time, I'm thinking, if she's dying, I've got to play the Nishringa Kavacha. Maybe that will save her. So I'm trying to use YouTube, trying to make emergency calls. I got her phone open for YouTube. And of course, she doesn't have the paid version. So I'm getting all these ads with YouTube when you need it the most. And then I'm calling Banu. I'm calling my guru. I was like, I've got an emergency. I think Mara's dying. Now, Mara's out cold. And Mara, what do you remember? Just
When I woke, the next thing I remember is I thought that we were still at Govardhan Hill, just on like a bench on the side of the road, but it turns out we were at a Govardhan hospital.
When she says Govardhan Hospital, you should understand it's a bench at the side of the road with a guy that says he was a doctor. There was one man radically like rubbing her hand, like to get blood motion in her hand. I was like, well, this isn't good. He must know something. Maybe he's like a Marmot doctor or something. He's rubbing her hand, rubbing her arm. She's unconscious laying on a bench. And I was like, are you the doctor?
Okay,
and
someone's administering some treatment.
He goes, no. Yeah, I thought he was administering. He was the rickshaw walla. He was the rickshaw driver who was administering. I was like, where is the doctor?
It's very nice that he stayed with me.
He stayed with her. Was administering something. He was the only one on call, it seems, the rickshaw walla. You know what? I was oblivious. I just gave him $100 and I should have given him a big tip.
$100?
Because he went much farther. I didn't even think about it till later. I gave him 100 rupees. Okay. But anyway, So she didn't realize where we are. Then I had Banu, Siddheshwari, and Hemalacha Radha. We all jumped in a taxi, and this Indian devotee, Ananta. We all jumped in a taxi with Mara, crammed in here. Mara's like, I don't know.
So you're taking her out of the hospital now?
We're taking her out of this Govardhan hospital. They're like, oh, this is what they said.
They were about to give me, I suddenly sort of came to have a reaction to like, they were about to give me a big shot right in my butt.
Oh.
And so like somehow I sort of came conscious to be like, no, what are you doing? But mostly, I recall Raghu chanting to me and I was asking if I was going to leave my body. I thought that was, I thought I was going to die.
You asked that, am I dying?
Yeah. Am I dying? And then I said, please don't take me out of the Dom. Where are you taking me?
That was a very spiritual, sober moment to say, please don't take me out of the Dom.
Yeah.
The Dom.
Let me die here.
The Dom is the holy place. We want to die. We want to die there. And you always hear stories about that. Someone getting sick and they rush them to a hospital in Delhi.
Out of the Dom.
I knew I wasn't quite advanced enough to die at Govardhan Hill. So I was like,
you're real close though.
This is my shot. So that's why I hit her with a stick. Die now!
Die. No, hold on. Let's dig into this, right?
And then I was asking for Mara.
So Mara,
what's that?
Mara, what can you share about your thoughts in that moment? Do you remember it well, or what you were feeling? Were you okay with dying in the Dom?
My body was in physical pain. Yeah, I was okay with dying in the Dom. I think, I had a thought of my dad go through my head, but I was sort of like, I was thinking about it later and was thinking like, well, I wasn't, in Radha and Krishna's Leela or thinking of Krishna's lotus feet, as I thought I was going to leave my body, but also, I was thinking about Maharaj. I was thinking about being in this holy place in Vrindavan. I didn't have a lot of like material attachments that came through my head at that time. I wasn't worried about anything back home or,
What about Raghu? Did you think about this guy at all?
My property. Yeah, he was chanting to me.
What about me? Were you thinking about me at all,
Yeah,
Mara? Your podcast co-host? No.
All she was, she was saying, I want to stay in the Dom, which is beautiful. Because at one point, the sort of educated Indian that was with us, Ananta, he was saying, okay, we're going to have to take her to a bigger hospital. This is not going to work here. Because she ended up, we found out she had a seizure.
What was your state in that moment? You were just kind of dizzy and out of it, and like when you decided to go to the other hospital?
When it first happened, or at that point? Oh, I was having trouble breathing.
She was having problem breathing, so we thought, man, is she choking?
I mean, couldn't really speak. I couldn't really even speak.
Okay, so now you're going to this other hospital where you're going to try to get
a lot of effort to even get words out.
So now you say we need to go to some people that know more about this to get a good analysis.
So he said there's a big hospital in Bhartpur. And I was like, oh my God, that's just how it happens. They take her out of the Dom and bring her to Bhartpur. Not good. He's like, or there's a hospital in Mathura. I was like, Mathura, it's okay to die in Mathura. That's how you got to understand at this point, it didn't seem like a seizure. It just seemed like she was choking. Her body stopped working. It went from completely numb to unconscious to sort of, even in this stage right now, she could have gone back. As far as I was concerned, she could have got back into that state in a moment. It didn't seem like she was necessarily
really present
coming out
at that point.
And she sort of got out of it as she got in the cab by the time we got to Mathura.
Once we were like maybe halfway there, 10 minutes from I was thinking like, okay, I'm exhausted, but I think I feel like myself, like I'm coming back into my body again, and maybe we shouldn't go to the hospital. Maybe I should just go home and rest, but I was able to like speak again.
Super scary.
Yeah.
So after we did the brain scans, MRI, EEG, we realized, okay, the doctor concluded in some blood tests, the doctor was like, this was a seizure. So anyway, she's just been incredibly exhausted.
Before, right?
No, I've never had anything like it before.
So
and they didn't have any
when we go
what
back,
caused it.
Old age was the answer.
The doctor said, what was the cause of this? And he's like, old age. I was like, come on. They say Indians say things like that without any
So
But
so then
anyway.
what happened?
So then that was our last day. It sort of sucked up our last day in Jaipur, in Govardhan, because we couldn't do it. Mara just had to sleep, and these medications she was on, this anti-seizure medication they put her on, has exhausted her body. Like she just sleeps 16 hours a day.
Yeah.
And you know me, I'm just like walking in circles, losing my marbles. Come
Wow.
on, let's go out and play. Come on. But
Pretty. I mean, I'm not sure whether it was more scary for me or for you, Prabhu. I
yeah,
was out of it
you
for
missed it.
a
I was losing my mind.
Well, what's interesting was, I almost feel like it was arranged for me to get so many prayers from the Vaishnavas, because you called one of your teachers and he was, for some reason, he answered his phone, even though he was giving a class. And you were so
And I was screaming at the class
that everybody in the
Wow.
class heard. And so they all began to pray for me.
You gotta help me.
Mara's
while I was
dying.
on the side of
Mara's
Govardhan
dying.
Hill, so.
Satchidananda Swami was doing intense prayers for
Yeah.
her too. So
Wow.
I think it was a good thing. There's something powerful where I'm asking everybody listening, say some prayer for Mara's, recovery in all this, because there's still a big question mark, and she's still,
Still a big
honestly,
question
she's
mark,
still a little nervous because we have a neurologist meeting as soon as we get back. But this Mathura hospital, it was a little bit of a joke, truthfully. And we didn't know what we were getting.
Well, Mara, we
But
love you.
it's one
It
of
was
those,
scary
like,
for us. I
there's
was getting the
danger every
messages
step.
over here. Yeah. I'm wondering what was happening.
Yeah.
But let's take care of this. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for the prayers.
Okay. You look great, though.
Yeah.
So we're headed home tomorrow night. Thank you. We're headed home tomorrow night, and then see what's going on from there.
Thanks, everybody. See some sharing prayers and good advice on the message board. Thank you. So anyway, that's our little thing. And now we're in Jaipur. And
Drinking
Jaipur is one
lassis.
of these cool cities. Drinking lassis, yeah. For anyone who wants a little backstory of Jaipur, the person who developed this city in the 1600s, I think, was an 11-year-old. It took the throne when he was 11 years old, when his father was dying. He was a prince, and his father fully educated him. By the time he was 15, I think, actually, he took over, or 13. And he had to make some type of peace with Aurangzeb, who was the Mughal dictator, and he was a vicious guy. And they had some agreement where the Mughals wouldn't attack him, because the father, all the Rajputs, the kings of Rajasthan caused hell to the Mughals. They were sort of hard to defeat because they had these desert fortresses. Anyway, he moved down into the plains from the big forts on the hill, the Amber Forts.
Someone's been doing a little historical
created this whole
research.
city that
over
he
here.
laid out with this. Yes, I know these things, Kaustubha. And with the help of a big Bengali Shilpa Shastra expert who studies the architecture of a city, the streets are 108 meters wide. 108. I think it's 108 meters wide. 54 on the corner, something like that. He does everything perfectly. It was the first really laid out city according to Vastu and Shilpa Shastra. And perfectly, so the king's palace, you could go on the back porch and have darshan of Govinda. And the devotion they have for Govindaji, which is, why I got this revelation to, on my next pilgrimage to go to Jaipur again. You learn devotion from hanging out with these Rajasthanis, because they're eager and they're anxious and they're screaming and they're crying and they're like losing their mind and they're checking in. It's something that almost you have to, it gets transferred from their body to yours, that excitement.
All right. Okay.
You frozen, Mr. Kaustubha?
I think I got a real lag.
You got a lag. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So let's dive into our Q&A.
All right. How much time we got? We got a little time here.
First one is from Anonymous. Anonymous via email 220. I've been listening to Wisdom of the Sages since 2021. All right. And I've been trying to be a devotee of Sri Krishna. I'm almost 40 years old, and I'm coming to Krishna consciousness entangled in so many things, including debt. It's been a series of uphill battles, some won and some lost. I'm not throwing a pity party. I'm fully aware that there is a price to pay for my have-ups. What does that mean?
When I'm up.
There's a price to pay for my
when-
have-ups. There's a price to pay for my have-ups. So I'm wondering if anyone has any advice for regular schmo trying to survive in the material world, but also trying to transcend it. I'm not begrudged. I'm just overwhelmed. Thanks again. Oh, Kaustubha, that's a good one, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. What are your thoughts?
That's pretty straightforward. Well, the good thing about being a devotee is your direction for pleasure becomes more internal, and therefore your spending naturally goes down because you're living more simply. Like you're less or dependent on going to the movies, buying alcohol, buying cigarettes, buying accessories that you don't need. You're realizing like, this isn't going to satisfy me. That's not going to satisfy me. And so what happens is the debt thing works itself out. I mean, there's a lot of ways to go about it. You can do debt consolidation. You can, put money aside every month. You can ask for a loan, whatever, ask for a loan from a low interest loan. You can call your credit card company. But one thing is you will stop spending as much money, I find, on a spiritual path than a material path. So that's one little piece of good news. And you know what? You show up and do what you got to do. And the beautiful thing is Krishna knows where you're at, and he's going to use all your difficulties to purify you. Your difficulties are now not just going to be an uphill battle. Your difficulties are now, you're going to see them as ways for you to grow and evolve, be responsible, not be capricious or whimsical, and be dharmic. And on that path of dharma, you start to fall in love with Krishna easier. And you just show up on a regular basis, a little bit every day, and Krishna will take care of your debt. Krishna will take care of your ups and downs in the material world. Krishna will take care of that stuff and use that stuff to purify you. And the seasons change, my friend. Don't expect it to always be winter season. That's my statement. What do you think, Kaustubha?
Okay. Well, I kind of appreciate something about the nature of the question. I don't think we've ever had a question quite exactly like this one, where it's just like, hey, I'm struggling over here, help. You know? And there's something endearing about that. Yeah. But, one thing I immediately took note of is he mentioned debt. Now wise thinkers throughout the ages, you read in Mahabharata and other texts, debt is something that weighs on someone very heavily, If you're in debt, it kind of keeps a cloud over you, hanging over you. You never feel kind of like free until you've paid off your debt, and so my guess, the fact that you mentioned it and that I've heard those kind of things before, I have a feeling this debt is weighing on you. And if you can get out from under that, do what you have to do to get out from under that, I think already you'll start to feel a bit more free and light, But then other than that, as Raghunath is saying, this world is going to be, there's going to be struggle one way or another. You get on a spiritual path, you're going to struggle. But if you stay on a material path, you're going to struggle. It's something about the nature of this world. So we may as well struggle on the spiritual end, And just like you're doing now, when you're feeling a little down, when you're feeling a little like this is a heavy burden, reach out to your friends, and try to get a little encouragement. And, I was sharing, I was giving the class this morning. I'm speaking every day to a really nice group of seekers here, And I was, someone asked a question about relative time. And I got into it, like how reading about relative time in these ancient texts helps us zoom out and see our life from a different perspective. And I shared the story, Raghunath, about you, like the first time you spent time in a temple, and one of the monks there said, just give this one life to Krishna, you know, and you're like, one life, that's
Yeah.
one life is all I got. That's everything. It's like,
Yep.
you don't
That's
put the
all I
word
have.
just in front of that, you know, because just means like it's insignificant, but that you're asking me to give everything, my entire life. But we can, what will help give you strength, our anonymous friend here, is being able to zoom out. You know, when the burden seems heavy, you zoom out and the problems that seem like mountains begin to look more like molehills. You know, so we need that perspective. Our friends help us, give us that perspective. Sometimes we need a friend there to remind us. We definitely need daily reading and daily contemplation of these truths, and you'll find that that'll become a little lighter. Get out from under this debt. Keep up your practice. Be prepared that for some short amount of time, this life, you know, which is the remainder of your life, there's going to be struggle. We all got to come to terms with that. And hang in there and just keep the main thing. Keep reading these books, keep chanting that mantra, keep associating with devotees, and Krishna will bless you. And it'll start to feel lighter as you go. Even if the same weight is there, you're seeing it in a different way. It'll help.
I tell you, the debt thing is huge, because sometimes it's not $15,000. Sometimes it's like $240,000. You know, people get these school debts that are out of control, and these
that breaks my heart.
On 18-year-old. They prey on 18-year-olds who practically not even legal to drink a beer, and they're making them sign these contracts like, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to pay this back, I'm hoping that I'm going to make some money from this, and it's all going to work out well. And it really starts you off on the wrong foot of life, and it's got a twist of criminality in it, if you ask me. It's like preying on us. I know we're supposed to be adults at 18, but I feel like people are pressured into it at a young age, and it's really sad.
I'll say this: I don't own anything. Like, I don't own any property. I've never had a lot of money, but I've never been in debt. You know, I don't use a credit card. I've never been in debt, and I have been relatively free of anxiety on that level. Even though a lot of times I've lived right on the edge, paycheck to paycheck, you know, or, you know, just like hardly anything in the bank. You know, I used to regularly get messages from my bank, you know, like, you now have less than $100 in your account. You know, like, that was not so long ago. That wasn't, you know, that was a kind of an ordinary kind of thing for me. But I've never had debt. And I think debt does bring on anxiety. You know, it's tough.
Sure. Well, I'm the opposite. I've gone through a bankruptcy. No, I finally got out of debt when I was married. I was in debt the entire time. I was constantly in debt. I was losing my marbles on a regular basis. Yeah. Well, you know, I found it very difficult to be married and not be in debt until I met Mara. And now I would have gone. Now we're not in debt. It's such a relief. I paid back everything I did, and I feel like I can manage. But it was hard for us to manage together. Before you get married, get out of debt. That's a piece of good advice. Before you get married, get out of debt. Oh, that's one of the good things. Pre-marriage advice.
Thank you, Raghunath.
From me to you.
Boom. Okay.
Okay.
I'm already married. But anyway.
Get out of debt.
Okay.
And I'm not in debt.
Question number 2. Shall we hit it?
Do you hear that in the background? They're doing the Islamic prayers in the background.
Oh,
yeah. It's like, do the prayer. Just don't do it with a crappy speaker. That should be a law. You should have to do it with a very good speaker. Yeah, you can. Yeah. And then truthfully, I prefer no speakers. Hare Krishnas, Muslims, whatever it is, no more speakers. Sick of speakers. After being in India, everyone wants a microphone and a speaker, I find. It drives me insane. And almost like when you play these prayers really loud, it's the equivalent of me like driving through the McDonald's parking lot, blasting the Sex Pistols out my car window. It's almost like, look at me, I'm listening to the Sex Pistols. No one cares.
He's ranting.
You know what I mean?
He's ranting, Mara.
Well, she's got this rant.
I've heard this one, and we heard it this morning also.
That's because they're doing it at 5 a.m. Everyone's trying to sleep. I'm up chanting. I don't mind it, but I do mind it because it's sort of like, okay, do your prayer. Why do we all have to know you're praying? You know,
Well,
pray
it's a
in.
call to prayer. I think it's a call to prayer so that people know that it's a
It's
I know,
call
but
to
not
prayer.
everybody
Everybody
wants to
come
pray your prayer. Not everyone wants to pray your prayer. Just
You
give
gotta
an
call
alarm
everybody.
clock. Give it an alarm clock.
Maybe that should be the main thing. Let's get an alarm
Maybe you
clock
should
drive.
just get on the roof and say prayer time.
That would be lovely.
But right? But what they're doing now, Kaustubha.
Call to prayer. Right? It's okay.
Maybe
Raghunath.
bells,
Raghunath,
Christian
it's just
bells.
like
I
our,
don't mind that.
it's just like our advice to our anonymous schmo from the last question. Raghunath, there's going to be some burden you're going to have to carry in this life, and one of them is going to be speakers.
I know, but if I was the mayor here, if I was the governor, can't do that. Noise pollution's an issue. It's real, people.
Okay.
You can't take over somebody else's sound waves.
Okay, Raghunath, we got to
You
move
do-
on to
that-
the
that
next
happens a
question.
lot in
Enough.
India.
Enough.
It's like someone's getting. Okay, all right. All
Okay.
right. Okay, sorry. All right. How can we try to find shelter in Krishna when we have not found Bhava?
Oh, yeah.
How do we trust that it's God dealing with us mercifully when this world is merciless? When we have yet to find a feeling or sense of God being
You
there.
start.
I feel like the fact that they're even saying I'm waiting to find God means they've found God to some degree, or they wouldn't be barking up this path. It seems like they have some connection with God, but we can't have the highest thing. We can't demand from God the highest thing because God is a lover. God reciprocates. Like if I met Mara and it's our first date, I can't expect her to say, I want you to fully commit to me 100%. It's just not, it's not natural. It's not authentic. She doesn't even know me. And so for us to commit to God and God to commit to us, we have to be a little vulnerable with each other. So part of approaching God with our humility is to understand God starts to manifest. I can't make demands on God. God, make all my pain go away. God is not like Amazon Prime. You know, whatever you say, just, buy now. I can't do that with God. God is there, but we have to vulnerably approach God, and God reciprocates, and it's real. It's a real reciprocation, but I can't harvest before I plant, before I, sow, fertilize, weed. I can't harvest the fruit. That all takes time. You want Bob? Bob is like a very elevated state. You got to show your sincerity. We deserve, and then we desire that. We can't just desire it. That's like a child. I want everything now. What do you think?
I think there's something called sambandha jnana, right? Knowledge of the nature of our relationship. Who am I? Who is God? What am I doing here in this world? What is this world all about? And what am I doing in it? And if we can get a real clear picture of that, it helps us understand things. You know, in this with this group that I've been speaking with in the mornings, past couple of days we've been talking about time, karma, and the gunas, right? Okay. And I describe these as like I've been using the whole virtual reality, metaphor,
analogy, that you use.
Yeah,
it's a good analogy.
Yeah, it's good, and there's just another little nuance that I've been kind of using. Good analogies, they go deeper and deeper, But like, let's say I built a virtual reality for you, Raghunath, and I created all kinds of pleasures and comforts in there, and you went in and it was so comfortable and everything that it didn't have all the problems of the outside world, So you kind of got accustomed to it and maybe addicted to it. You didn't want to come out. But I'm looking at you and saying, oh man, Raghunath, I created this virtual reality. Now he's in it. He's deep in it. He doesn't want to come out. But it's sad that he's missing out on the real, more meaningful life in reality. And so I want you to come out.
You don't even have to give an analogy, Baba.
Well,
This
it's
is
analogous to
every
our
kid with their
circumstances.
face in their. This is every kid with their face in their iPhone.
Yeah, but this is just a little
Yeah.
different because the thing is, now I want you to come out. I want Raghunath to come out. I don't want to just say, you know what, I'm shutting this down, because then you're still going to want to be there in your mind and in your heart. So I need you to
Okay.
come to the stage where on your own, you decide, I don't want to be in this virtual reality anymore. And so therefore I download and install time into the virtual reality, where everything that you're attached to starts to disintegrate, either at a quick or a slow rate, but it's all slipping away. Now, that's changed the nature of your experience in there. And then the next thing I do is, I download the law of karma. Before, you were operating kind of like very carefree. And now every act that you do, it brings repercussions. Suddenly, like, your realm isn't just this realm of just bliss. It's there's some serious grave truths going on in that world, and there's some serious consequences. And so the idea is that stuff, that's what our anonymous writer here is talking about. They write how to trust that God is dealing with us mercifully when the world is merciless. Time feels merciless, right? You just can't stop it.
Yeah.
It's going to take everything away. Try to see it from this perspective that try to see time and these things as you see as merciless, it's actually mercy. It's actually my way of trying. Out of my love, I want Raghunath on his own to decide to come out. And this is God's way of love, sending love in the form of time, in the form of karma, that on our own we'll come to the idea that this is not my home, that this realm is not where I belong, that there's a much more fulfilling, satisfying, meaningful life outside of this virtual reality that we call the material world. But we need to come there on our own. We need to decide, because if not, we'll just want to come back. When, Bhagavad-gītā speaks of, you go to that place upon which you never return. It's like we don't return because we understood on our own, because we came to the decision on our own, that we developed our own realizations. And so that merciless feeling, the things in this world that feel merciless, like they're really just grinding us, they're really just crushing us. We're hearing about debt from the previous person that wrote in, and now we're just hearing about the world feels merciless. How do I have Bhav? Try to hear about Krishna on all levels. Who he is. Your Sambandh again in relation to who he is, but also hear his leelas, hear his pastimes, hear about how beautiful he is, hear about how kind he is, how sweet he is. Read Bhagavatam daily. Let these impressions start to grow in you. That bhav will come, that feeling, genuine feelings will come. But all along, put your suffering in this world in the context that it truly is the mercy of God, helping you come to this decision on your own, because that's the way that the loving parent helps the child, right? In certain, in when it comes to certain things, the loving parent says the child needs to understand the sound. I can't force it on him. It'll be artificial. It won't go deep. This is the way that we come to this on our own. So try to see it. Try to keep seeing through that lens, and it may start to feel different.
Sure. Material misery should be the spark that ignites our spiritual path. We shouldn't just, we're not trying to create heaven on earth. That's not going to happen. It's a temporary world, right? You're trying to find heaven on earth. That's the problem. Heaven on earth can't exist. We're falling in love with things that are flaking apart, breaking through our we got to fall in love with something higher, something much higher that can't go away, even when our own body goes away or the bodies of everybody I love.
You just hit on both sides of the equation, I think, Raghu, that on one hand, don't expect this world to be a paradise. It's not going to be. And two, you want to develop this bhava. Let's ask the question, how intensely are you pursuing it? You have to ask yourself that question. If genuine feelings of love for God are our goal and are the most precious gift. And it is so powerful that it even controls God, right? Then we can't expect that that's going to become cheap. So then the next question is, with what kind of intensity are you pursuing that? With what kind of determination and drive and focus are you pursuing it? You really have to ask, and I don't know an honest person, and I don't know about their sadhana or what they do, but I think you could ask yourself this question: the most important, most powerful gift that I could ever receive, do I read Krishna's Leelas every day? You know, do I chant his name regularly? Do I do it with concentration? You know, do I make it my priority? How much of my time where I could be pursuing that am I wasting? You know, am I allowing myself to be distracted from? So if we don't have bhava, first let's go there and see if we're tightening the screws on everything else. And most of us are letting a lot of that slip away. So on one hand, we're asking, give me the highest state of consciousness. Give me the deepest, most precious gift that exists in all the universe that even the demigods are begging for. And we're not begging for it. We're not with any intensity, you know.
Sure. Give me $1 million, but I want to do nothing to deserve it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do the work. You know, do the work. And as you surrender,
understand
Krishna rewards accordingly.
Understand how rare it is.
Yeah, it's a rare thing. Just can't demand stuff. We got to work for it.
All right.
And God works towards us too, as we work towards him. Isn't that beautiful?
That's beautiful.
It's not just we're climbing up a ladder. He's also climbing down to grab us.
Right.
It's beautiful. You're beautiful. Next question.
I think we got to get the schmo from the previous question together with this anonymous writer, and I think they'd be great friends. I think they could connect and help one another.
They'd be a great couple, maybe.
Mara, work on that, okay? Put these two together.
Okay, this is from Achutananda.
Okay, so we got a name
Sage
behind
Community Chat. Achutananda. The Bhagavad-gītā mentions that the unsuccessful yogi is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy, from which he tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success. Sometimes we hear that having material wealth is a hindrance on the path of surrender, and that Krishna often takes away a devotee's opulence to help them. So my question is, how might being born into a wealthy family help a devotee to make further spiritual progress? That's a good question.
Okay.
I'm going to go first and you wrap it up.
Sure.
That's how we've been playing this game today.
Okay.
I've started off and then you put on the frosting.
Okay.
Well, in destitute positions, it's hard for us to do anything except they say money brings out the worst in people. So does destitution. Destitution can really bring out the worst in people. But sometimes it's having.
Yes.
I just know, for example, in a culture like we live in the Western world, we can do things that if we were destitute, we couldn't do. We can go on vacations. We can get on a plane and go somewhere. So sometimes having something is better than being destitute. There's a lot of people in this world who are destitute, and that is a very tough karma to have in this life, because not only can they not be on a spiritual path necessarily, they could be, but not necessarily, but they could just be worried about surviving, just about surviving for their loved ones, for their children, for their own safety, etc. So it gives us a little bit of freedom to say, you know what? Okay, so there's got to be something more in this world. So it is good karma, but it's not perfect karma, because we also say good karma can ruin your life. That's a common wisdom of the sages aphorism. So it is good karma for the unsuccessful yogi. But in the next verse, Prabhupada says, but for those who are actually very advanced, who have been practicing yoga for a long time, but they die untimely, then they take the higher birth, which is not just aristocracy and great wealth, but it could even be very poor, but they're born into a family of devotees. Now, I was just with my assistant, Janeshwar Prabhu. Now, he's been a devotee. His parents were devotees. His wife is the daughter of these very totally surrendered devotees. And those parents are Shiva, I think Shiva Bhaktas or Krishna Bhaktas or a little bit of both. But it's like they have like a lineage of dharmic spiritual family. And they had a baby, and that baby is getting so much love. And so they're not the richest family. They're not in debt, but they're not the richest families per se. But there's so much love in that family. There's so much bhakti in that family. That family's growing up around parents, grandparents, great grandparents who are all like doing pujas, chanting mantras, singing bhajans. That is the most fortunate birth. It's someone like Srila Prabhupada, our guru's guru, who had little Rath Yatra festivals as a child. So they're doing worship of Krishna from their like infancy, while we were playing with Weebles and Barbies and GI Joes. They're playing with like Gopal deities as child, dressing their baby Gopal deity. So it's a very, very special birth. But having money is good karma, but it's not the end all, obviously, because I'm sure we know a lot of people have money but do horrible things with it. So yeah, we want something more, but it can afford us to go deeper. Whereas destitution oftentimes is just a very tough situation because we're worried on the basic necessities of life. Kaustubha, tag.
Yeah, thank you, Raghunath. Yeah, the verse this is coming up in 2 verses that are being referred to here from the 6th chapter, 641 and 42. And of course, the 641 says, Suchinam Shrimitam Gehe Yoga Brashto Pajayate. Suchinam refers to purity, right? Pious people that have a certain spiritual purity about them, or a certain goodness about them, let's say. And Srimatam means they're prosperous. And Gehe means in the house of, right? Suchinam Shrimitam Gehe. They take birth in a house of, the way it says it, Prabhupada says, he translates it as righteous people, that's the Suchinam, or the Srimatam, or rich aristocracy. A lot of even Vaishnavacharyas have translated this as, they put that together, of righteous people who are aristocratic, like righteous people who are well-to-do. So you can see it either way, but the point here is it has to do with our desire. The second one, which says you're born into a family of transcendentalists, that's for someone who's further advanced on the path. So the first verse is people who are less advanced on the path, right? It's like, okay, you take birth in a pretty good situation. You're good people, well-to-do, you're not struggling financially, which, as you mentioned, can be a big issue. And maybe you still desire some opulence. Maybe you still desire some luxury, and you're being granted that. And granted, it may not be the best thing for your spiritual life. If you had let go of that desire, if you were more advanced on the path, then you take birth, as it said in text 42, in the family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. And there it says, certainly such a birth is rare in this world. So it's just 2 levels of advancement, But, this is one thing. It's just, if we really understood this, and some of the questions that we've heard today are all on the edge of this idea, and it's something I've been thinking about a lot in what I've been talking about in these classes I've been doing the past couple of days, is that everything has to do with our desire. The person that's born into the rich family is because they still desire that, at least to some degree, and it's being granted. And the person that's being born in the family of transcendentalists is because that's what they want. That's what they really want. It's just become the priority in their life. It's what they've been striving for. I'll read you something. I read this to the group the other day, Raghunath. Yeah. I think it's so deep. Prabhupada,
you get the same group every day, or same people coming?
Well, a lot of the same people, and there's always turnover here in Rishikesh. People are coming and going.
But it's a thing.
Yeah, but I read from the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad-gītā where Krishna begins by using a metaphor that this material world is like a reflection of a banyan tree, right? And he's saying that it's like there's the spiritual world is actually reality, and the world that we're moving in is a reflection of it. We could say virtual reality or things like that, but it's a and a reflection means in many ways it's very similar, but it's actually the exact opposite, right? Whereas the spiritual world has a divine center and everybody's in harmony revolving around it without any drop of selfishness, just love. This world, everybody is their own center and everybody's operating with selfishness, and we're wondering why it's so difficult here, you know? It's because we're in the reflection, which is like kind of backwards. But Prabhupada says this, he says that we're talking about a reflection here, because he says it like this. He says, what the verse says is there's a banyan tree with the roots going up and the branches going down. And so Prabhupada writes, there's no ready experience in this world of a tree situated with its branches down and its roots upward. But there is such a thing. That tree can be found besides a reservoir of water. We can see that the tree on the banks reflect upon the water with their branches down and the roots up. In other words, the tree of the material world is only a reflection of the real tree of the spiritual world. Okay, that's a very interesting idea, right? That the world that we're living in is somehow that there's a true substance. And that this world is a reflection of that. And then Prabhupada says what this world is situated on. If this world is a reflection, what is the surface that it's reflecting on that's supporting this world? In other words, what is the basis of this world? What needs to be there for this world to exist? Just like a reflection can't exist. If that lake were empty and had no water in it, there would be no reflection of the tree on it. So it's reflected on the surface of the water. So this spiritual world is reflecting a reflection of the material world. What is the surface that it exists on? What needs to be there for that reflection to exist? You know what he says? Prabhupada writes, this reflection of the spiritual world is situated on desire, such as a tree's reflection is situated on water. Desire is the cause of things being situated in this reflected material light. Right? It's interesting. It's situated on desire. If we didn't desire to live so-called independently from the very root of our existence, from God, then there would be no material world. It's only because we desire it that it manifests. And every situation that we find ourselves in has to do with our desire. And once we let go of our desire, we exit the virtual reality. You know, it's the only thing holding us in is our desire. So, if we look at the question that we have here, why is one person being born in a wealthy aristocratic family? That doesn't sound ideal necessarily for spiritual life. Well, it's not ideal. It's good. You know, they had advanced to a certain level, and their desires, they have spiritual desire blended with material desire, and they're getting exactly that, and they're being born in a family of pious people that are well-to-do. But if they had gone deeper and let go of more material desire, then it would have been more like they're saying in the next verse. Then they would have been born in a family of transcendentalists who have great wisdom. That's a still rarer birth for people that have let go of their material desires still more. So one or the other. Both are steps forward, but one is fulfilling the desires of a person on one level, and the other is fulfilling the desires of a person on another level. It all has to do with our desire.
Interestingly enough, what we know as Hinduism, mantras, even kirtan for some people, church, metaphysics, spiritual, what we know as all those things, oftentimes is a desire to get my desires fulfilled, but I want to use a more metaphysical way to get it done. You know, I want to counteract malefic planets. I want my wishes to come true. Like I want a genie in a bottle to fulfill all my desires. That is still what's binding us in the material world. To get out of it, we have to relinquish material desires. We don't have to relinquish desires. Right. We relinquish material desires. That's the difference.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had an interesting conversation recently with someone that came up and asked me questions, and what I could see was they're very sincere, a very nice person. And they were asking me about spirituality, how difficult the material world can be, how painful it can be sometimes, particularly in terms in relation to their loved ones. And they're asking, why does it have to be that way? And do you have any spiritual advice? Essentially was, give me spiritual advice so that I won't feel this pain in the material world. And my point was, the pain is meant you to drive you, not to make the material world more not nicer for you,
Cushy.
but it's to help you realize that this isn't your home and that you're not meant to be here. You know,
Right.
So, but our path begins by having faith in these spiritual teachings. They make sense, and our first response is, how can these spiritual teachings help me be happier in the material world?
Right.
And then, but eventually we come to that point where, like, oh, I get it. This is not my home. I'm meant to transcend this world.
Oh, stupid. That's it. Everybody say prayers for Miss Mara. And thanks for
Prayers for
sharing, Mara, your story.
Hey, I think we got to get Tara to
very
do a
much.
Nishringadev puja there
Oh,
in
that's
my
a good idea. The string day puja from
Get
Miss
Tara
Mara.
on that. Get Tara on that. You gonna call him?
I'm on that.
Should I?
Thanks for already join us later that I didn't say hello to, like Henry, Alachua's own Henry, and
You know what's gonna happen,
Kanuram.
Raghunath? You know
Johnny
what's gonna
Pretty.
happen? When Mara gets to America,
What?
they're going to do some kind of scan on the brain, and they're going to see Lord Nishringadev right inside.
They're gonna see Bunky Bihari in that brain scan of hers. I already made a joke when I did
Well,
when I
we're gonna do a
got the
Bunky
brain
Bihari
scans
puja.
back. Amrita Kishore, good to see
Bunky
you. Martine,
Bihari.
there you are.
And he's kind of
Bunky
disappearing and
Bihari,
reappearing. They're closing the curtain and opening it.
Pamela Garland, good morning. Martine made it. Sandy Seymour. And Ava Maria. Harry Ball. Anyway, we're happy you're feeling better. And prayers as we go back to the doctor, the neurologist, back home.
Thanks for staying on my side.
Wow, she's dead. She's dead. All right, Kaustubha, have a great time in Rishikesh. Everybody else, what's the deal with the show, Mara?
Thank you.
No show for the next 2 days, and we're back on Wednesday at 6 a.m. Eastern.
But we're going to be great
Back in
when we come back on Wednesday. It's going to be just like old
What's that?
times. It's going to be just like old times by the time we get to Wednesday.
Sorry for you guys and our crazy schedules. Trying our best here. Beautiful day for beautiful
Are
day.
you?
Let the magic continue to flow. What's that, sir?
I said, are you trying your best? Are you?
All right.
Are you really?
We're going to go, Prabhu. We're going to go, Prabhu.
All right. Ready, roll, everybody.
Beautiful day for beautiful day. Let the magic continue to flow. And a Radhe Govinda Hari Bo from Jaipur.